Here we are,
Wow.
live again.
This is it. I'm in a different office. We are now on the studio lot. So we had to move because we're shooting a pilot soon.
Wow.
So there could be action on the floor. Somebody could burst into the office at any moment, and that would make for an interesting podcast.
Crash through that window behind you.
Crash right through the window, yeah. Crash right through. Ricky, where are you at? What's this? Is this an office?
I'm in Chicago. Yeah, I'm in my office, which doubles as my wife's closet.
Yep.
So there's a lot of really pretty dresses in the background in case anyone's interested.
That's so lovely. When did you get married?
2 months ago today.
I thought it was recently. Congrats, man.
Congrats.
What was it like?
It was pretty cool. It was just a big party with all my friends, all my family. And I think we set the record for the shortest ceremony. It was like sub 3 minutes. So everyone was like ready to, lock in for a long ceremony. They had no idea that this shit was going to be over momentarily.
Oh wow.
So that was
no vows?
Nice. No, we just did them, and then that was kind of it.
Wow. Was that part of the pre-planning, or did it just kind of turn out that way, that it was really short?
Just kind of turned out that way.
Nice.
But everyone loved it.
And did it go right into the cocktail hour situation?
Yeah.
That's
so
good.
It was a fun time. Then I went to Greece and Barcelona. I had never left the country in my life. So
wow.
First time I ever went abroad. It ruled. I don't know why I waited so long.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a fun summer.
Which did you like more between Greece and Barcelona?
Barcelona was cooler. There was just like way more to do. I felt like I could have stayed there for months and been, entertained with different things to see and do. So,
wow.
Mike, did you go there on your?
No, I didn't. I haven't been to Greece or Barcelona. I did the Italy, France, Netherlands situation. But Europe's there's a lot of stuff there to do, and that was my first time there for my honeymoon also. And it's like, what? Why did I wait this long? But it's a narrow window of like, I don't have enough money to do it. And then I do have enough money, but now I'm like, oh, I'm too busy because of work stuff. Like, it's like it's tricky. And you gotta carve out that time. Because it's a big world out there, CJ. You gotta go see it. You've been spending too much time in national parks, but there's other stuff too.
I want to hit the States first before I head abroad, but that's on my list for sure.
I hear you. All right, should we do it?
Let's do it.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS, and brought to you by Kornblau and Kornblau, the official law firm of The Process. MortgageCS. Become a MortgageCS Ricky VIP at mortgagecs.com/Ricky. Bodybio. Get 20% off any Bodybio order with code Mike's Tummy. That's me, and that's my tummy at bodybio.com. And, of course, Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, the official sponsor of the Corner 3 newsletter with Zoe. Subscribe at rightstoRickySanchez.com/newsletter. On the show today, Spike is out of town, so we have Ricky O'Donnell here from SBNation to talk about the Summer League Sixers, how they're doing, Jared McCain, Adem Bona, Ricky Council, etc. I don't know if we've talked about where BBall Paul ended up, but we'll give BBall a little bit of love. Maybe talk about the Jalen Brunson Knicks situation. And since we have Ricky here, ask him about his beloved Chicago Bulls. Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka is the official drink of Philly sports. You see it everywhere. That shit is everywhere. It is our friend Taylor's bachelor party in Vegas that Alyssa, my wife, is helping to plan. And the girls are requesting Surfsides. It's happening everywhere. It's all over the shore. It's coming to the West Coast. It's in Philly. It's at Phil's games. They love it. 100 calories, only 3 grams of sugar. There's so many flavors. They've really loaded up on the flavors. I still haven't tried the green tea one. That's going to be cool. It's not carbonated. Iced tea doesn't have bubbles. Get it wherever you get your alcohol. StatesideVodka.com. You must be 21. CJ, play the song.
were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Say the name. Say the name. I say the name. I say the name. Say the name.
Life's tricky Sanchez forever.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Mike Levin alongside Ricky O'Donnell from SBNation. Ricky, how are you doing this summer so far?
Good, man. I'm chilling. I feel like the way the NBA news cycle works at such warp speed these days, it was kind of like that Celtics championship just didn't linger too long. It was nice. I know that we all get annoyed that it's trade rumors 24/7, but it's great when the Boston Celtics win the championship. We can just forget that shit, move on. No one cares anymore. Did it even count?
No.
Whatever.
No,
So
I don't think
I feel like, the
don't think
Celtics cloud isn't hanging over my head right now. It's the summer. Everything's beautiful.
it went away pretty quick in a way that I liked. I am upset that it will be in the record books for, I would assume, for quite a long time, unless something comes out, like an asterisk reason. I'm not saying that there's going to be one, but I'm saying like it could happen, and then that would change, I guess, the way we think about it, and so it wouldn't count. It is a summer. We have Summer League. I love Summer League. Summer League is like where it feels like a camp that I used to go to as a kid. And you see pictures from like other kids at that camp now, and you're like, it looks the same, but it's different because I'm not there anymore. And that's a little bit how I feel about Summer League as I've sort of aged out of going there. Did you go to Summer League this year?
I've actually never been to Summer League.
Whoa,
believe it or
Ricky.
not.
Ricky.
And it was because normally we would have very limited travel budgets, and I would want to cover something that I would deem more meaningful, whether that was AAU or like a junior basketball camp, like junior USA mini camp, whatever it was. So I just never went. But
wow. You're always jumping on the next mock draft for the year after, which I always enjoy reading from the following year. You do such a good job with those. What did you think about, before we get into specifics about how they're playing, what did you think about the Sixers draft class generally, taking Jared McCain at 16, Adem Bona in the mid-second, and then picking up two-way guys undrafted, Justin Edwards out of Kentucky and David Jones out of Memphis?
Yeah, I think just solid in general. Like McCain was a guy I could kind of have gone either way on. Like typically I don't love guards who are sort of below the size and athleticism thresholds of, standard NBA guards. But man, to me, like you could see the vision of him as being just a really great connective piece and an elite shooter if the shots are falling. And to me, like, the best shooter in this draft class, it was either him or Reed Shepherd or maybe Rob Dillingham. So he just has like such a great 3-point shot that you can like see how he could fit in on a team with Embiid pretty seamlessly. So I thought that was solid. And then Bono was one of my favorite second rounders. Just super strong and jumps out of the gym, plays with a ton of energy, like not really a skill guy, but in the second round of a bad draft, like I'll just take a guy who is really physical and is sort of cannot be contained by the laws of gravity and can just sort for rebounds and dunks and do like big man stuff. That's cool. We like when bigs do big man stuff. So.
That's it, man. I love that shit. That's why I have a really since they took Embiid at 3 in 2014, which was 10 years ago, and we did talk about it on this podcast, and now we got a decade worth of institutional memory on this thing. I just see no reason to really ever take a center in the first round unless you think that they're generational. You have to convince yourself that this is someone that I simply could build my team around, really, because there's just always going to be guys that are willing to set screen and protect the rim and roll hard and catch lobs in the second round and undrafted. There's always going to be those guys. And I would just never, I think about like the Jazz taking Udoka Azubuike at the end of the first round a couple years ago. And it's like, that was such a strange pick at the time. And it's the exact kind of thing. Obviously, it was like a 27, I think it was, which is not that big of a deal. It's like close to the second round anyway. But there's always going to be those kinds of guys available in the second round. I think of Nick Richards all the time, and Bona is kind of like that type of guy, of just a really solid, plays his ass off, knows who he is. I have been impressed by his free throw touch and form. He's shooting very well from the line in Summer League between Vegas and Salt Lake. It looks really nice, and it didn't look that nice at UCLA, and it's definitely not a jump shooting threat, but I am starting to ideate on the idea of Bona maybe having somewhat of a jump shot, but him hitting free throws, even just like at 65+%, is really nice, and I would like that. But it was the exact kind of thing, and they signed him to a 4-year deal to play on the main roster, pretty classic Hinkie special type of deal that they signed him to over the last few days officially. And it just, when you have Drummond backing up Embiid and you're paying so much money to Maxey, PG, and Embiid to take up the cap, like, you just got to get guys in the system that are cost controlled, and to be able to go, Bona is backing up Drummond this year. We'll probably play a little bit as Embiid gets hurt and misses time and misses back-to-backs or whatever. And they'll probably still sign some like Tony Bradley type third center or whatever. But like, the fact that he can grow into just being Joel's backup the way that BBall did for a few years, and Bona is at least much more of a traditional rebounding shot blocking threat, less on the perimeter, although he can do it. I just think it worked out really nicely. They got the guy they wanted. He could have had a first round grade on him. I don't think there's like, Yves Missi and Khalil Ware, like, I don't think that they're guaranteed to be better than him. It's just like, it was just a really competent, good organization, right decision, and I think what we've seen in Summer League from Bona has reflected that as well.
Yeah, I think Bona, did he have the highest standing vert at the combine? I saw him at the combine, and he was like jumping out of the gym at that testing stuff. So yeah, I think he's like a 40-inch vertical guy, and he's like 265 pounds or something. That's just off the top of my head. I don't know what his, maybe he was 243 or something. He had like a very rare intersection of weight and leaping.
Yeah, and
which is cool. That's just a cool guy thing to do, you know? If you're going to take a center, probably don't draft a string beat. Have some dude who can handle the physicality of the NBA. And yeah, like, he's someone who can run with Maxey too, if that ever happens. Like, he can get up and down. And like, he's never gonna sort of go outside of that kind of like narrow role for him. Like, I don't know if I'm buying his 3-point shot or having any sort of shot, but you gotta love Summer League. Like, that's what it's all about. Like, convincing yourself that you're like likely G League bound guy suddenly is a 3-point shot away from becoming a high level role player.
Amen to that.
But Bona, like, Morey just knows what he's doing, and getting someone like Bona is an example of that.
Yeah. The point you made about running with Maxey is interesting. The Sixers have really not had a rim-to-rim threat in a really long time, of somebody that's just going to sprint up the court down the seam and be available to either draw the defense in and create lanes and open shots for shooters, or if nobody rotates over and tags the big, him just he missed he caught the ball at like 18 feet and tried to do like long strides, no dunks. I don't know if you watched the last Sixers game, and he front rimmed it because he didn't take any dribbles. But I love the attempt of him just going like, I'm catching and I'm dunking this. I love that shit. And just watching it go, like, Embiid doesn't do that. He's never going to do that. He's never going to run the court. He's never going to be like, I'm faster than you. I'm going all out. Bona doing it like, Hartenstein did it to Embiid sometimes. Plenty of other guys have done it to Embiid because of how big of a role he has on both ends. And just like, if I can beat him down court, that's such an easy bucket. Like the way like Aaliyah Boston does for the Fever. It's just really cool to have a guy that could grow into that. I don't think they're going to count on him this year at all. But I really have liked what I've seen from Bona. Like you said, like strong, physical, elevates on dunks, two-handed with force. He had a really fun back and forth with Donovan Clingan in that game against Portland, where they kept going back and forth as far as like who was blocking who and who was finishing over who. And it was just like, he just knows exactly who he is. And I can't the differences with centers versus anybody else is like they can really only play center. He cannot, if he's not going to be playable as a center, doing center things, protecting the rim, being a lob threat, rebounding on both ends, then he's not going to play. And he's just going to be a waste of a roster spot, a waste of a draft pick. And the fact that Bona knows exactly who he is and what he does, obviously I love BBall, and we'll talk about BBall and him signing with the Pistons. I just need the center to do the center stuff because now the team has a bunch of other guys that can do other stuff, and that it's just making a lot more sense. And obviously Bona is going to foul like crazy, and he's biting on stuff. He fouled out of a summer league game, which they give you 10 fouls, and he's fouling out, which I respect on a deep level. Use them, baby. They don't count. Nothing matters. Just use them. And I think like as far as him biting on pump fakes and stuff, that's just going to come with time. He's just out there trying to block everything, and that's he's coachable. He knows who he is, and I love that stuff. Let's go back to McCain. I agreed with you in the sense of small guard, not that long, not even a little bit long, not that explosive, not even really that quick. He's shifty, but he's not quick. And he has handled the ball a lot more at Summer League than he did at Duke. At Duke, he was really like doing a lot of catch and shoot, running off screens, all that stuff. But I was concerned. He was not one of my guys coming into the draft. I was just concerned about the size and the physicality and being able to get his shot off the way that, we saw in the playoffs and a lot of the season when the Sixers got Buddy Hield. Like he just wasn't fast enough or could elevate enough to get his shot over other players when they were making it a focus point. And I think some of that is McCain also. He's willing to pull from deeper and stuff, but I just think that was a concern for me. And he has not had a great summer league so far. I'm not overwhelmingly upset about it. I think some shots will fall. I think I've seen some stuff that I like, but size-wise, it is a real concern that if you can't get that shot off, then you're not going to be able to play on one end when you're already a vulnerability on the other.
As you describe his game, doesn't that sound a lot like Reed Shepherd? And I don't know if you were a Reed Shepherd guy.
Yeah.
But just like the general outline of their scouting reports was relatively similar. Yeah. Besides for the fact that Reed Shepherd just might be a genius in terms of like getting the basketball. Like if the ball is out there, Reed Shepherd's going to get it. And McCain doesn't have that sort of innate quality. But I think in like sort of broad strokes, big picture strokes, you could see a lot of similarities between those two guys. Mm-hmm. And McCain actually has more of a track record as a shooter if you go back to high school, whereas Shepherd, like no one thought he was going to shoot 50% from three when he was at Kentucky. But McCain is just like, he was a 5-star probably since he was a sophomore in high school. I think he was, Mr. Basketball in California, Gatorade Player of the Year, all these things, like longtime Duke commit. So I think like just having that pedigree and having that track record of him being an elite prospect is something worth considering. And at the end of the day, dude, he's going to have to shoot better than 40% from 3-point range to be a viable NBA player. I'm sure everyone in Philadelphia has probably made the comparison to him and Seth Curry.
Yep.
Who's another player who, in broad strokes, maybe he has some similarities to. Seth Curry was fucking awesome on the Sixers for a bit, right? Like that 1.5 season they had him. So I thought that pick was fine. I think I gave it a B. I'm struggling now to even remember who else was on the board. I know Khalil Ware was the pick before. Did you have a guy you wanted them to take when they were on the clock?
I was in like the Collier range. I was like Tristan da Silva. Even like this would have been early for it if it was a trade down, but like a Kevin McCullough type of situation. But
so I liked all those guys quite a bit. Collier I had in the top 10. I loved Collier.
Yeah.
But you could just see the fit with McCain and the Sixers core pieces a little bit more clearly, I think. Whereas like Collier, could you play him and Maxey at the same time? Maybe it doesn't matter because you're picking 16 in a bad draft. You might as well just take the home run swing and maybe you end up getting a star. You trade him, trade someone else, whatever. But you can see McCain having some plug and play ability. The one thing I liked about McCain as a player is like, so with guards, I always look like, can they create an advantage with their first step? and just immediately like break that first line of the defense and collapse everyone else. McCain does not have that, and that's just evident to see. But what I do like about him is I feel like his deceleration is really good. Like when he wants to slam on the brakes, put someone on his hip, and just sort of have like good control in tight spaces, that's where he was impressive to me, I thought. And how that translates to the NBA when he's going to be in a major size deficit, even more so than the ACC, obviously, we'll see. But, like just going forward as fast as you can is no longer how basketball is being played. Like now you truly need a panoramic view. Being able to stop is almost just as important as being able to accelerate. And yeah, so I think that like there's some interesting things about him, but if you're going to be a 6'2" guard how many dunks did he have this year? Like he probably barely dunked, I would guess. He's not like a big time athlete.
No.
I don't know. On open catch and shoot threes, he better shoot 45% plus. And then was one thing I was going to bring up is like, he has like that real shooter's range where he'll shoot 30 footers like it's nothing. And, even though those also only count for 3, whether they're on the line or before, like there is a benefit just to having that extra spacing and the threat of someone willing to shoot that far. And I remember the story when the Knicks got Brunson that Tibbs painted the 4-point line on the court and then Brunson just started shooting from there. McCain is someone who has 4-point line range.
Yeah, Brett Brown used to do that also. Same thing. I want to keep talking about McCain and what he needs to do to be successful. After we talk about Kornblau and Kornblau, the official sponsor, the official lawyer of the process. The thing with the Adem Kornblau and his mom, who he runs Kornblau and Kornblau with, is that he is there for you. This is not the kind of lawyer that you just call and you can't get him and you get somebody else and somebody else answers the phone and then you have to wait for somebody to get there and they'll we'll email you back at some point, maybe next week. No. Adem Kornblau, personal injury lawyer, is there for you. You could text him, you could call him. You call, you get a Kornblau. He's going to get results for you. He's aggressive. He is there if it's personal injury or if it's not. If it's something else, you can just ask him. 2 pieces of advice from Adem. If you're in an accident or you get hurt, don't lie about it. Don't lie about the pain. Don't be a hero. If you need a lawyer, this guy's for you. Offices all over the Philadelphia area. He'll come to you if you need him to. They specialize in all aspects of bodily injury. If you think you might have a case, you got to give him a call or shoot him an email. It costs you nothing. Some lawyers, they just charge you for just their time. Kornblau, he's there. He will work with you. You need him, he got you. 215-576-7200, ask for Adem, or email Kornblau at kornblau.com. The and is spelled out. Adem Kornblau, the official lawyer of the process. So Jared McCain hasn't been shooting well. Is a great shooter. I'm not worried about it. The shots are going to go at the next level. There's a couple things that I liked. In one of those summer league games, he missed an open 3, and the very next possession, he steps into a 3 from the same spot and hits it. The willingness to pull from deep, the confidence to pull from very deep, like you said, is huge. He pulls up in transition, has a really, really quick trigger. Again, the Buddy Hield experience for the Sixers was, I think, a little bit harrowing, and how often he was unwilling to shoot that. And it's like you expect it with Tobias, right? Like Tobias wants to pump and go. He wants to survey the floor. He wants to be Carmelo, Julius Randle, that kind of thing. But you really expected Buddy Hield to just let it fly, and his willingness to do so when there were defenders nearby and he didn't have the space to do it, or like step back, he was always tippy toes on the line with Buddy. And I think that's part of why he fell out of the rotation in the playoffs, even though they needed that kind of offense. And Buddy's defense, as I've said on the podcast, was actually like pretty damn good in the playoffs. It was the offense that was not playable until that one quarter where he went off in the last game. McCain needs to keep doing that. I mean, the athleticism limitations just make it really hard to score around NBA athletes. The handle is shifty, but it really has to get a lot better to get by people. I agree with you about the deceleration, and it's cool to see him doing more on ball stuff than he got to do at Duke. But he did keep getting into the paint. Like against Minnesota, Dillingham was on him, and they were having a little bit of a back and forth, a little bit of like a taking it personally type thing, which I like to see. McCain's like he's a piece of shit, like in a good way on the court. Like he seems like a completely sweet young man off the court, obviously, but on the court, like he is mad and mean, and I like that, and you need that from an undersized guard, and that's the kind of Fred VanVleet stuff that you want to see out of him on the defensive end. The Sixers have been playing a 2-3 zone pretty much the entirety of Summer League, which is annoying, to be honest. It's like so much 2-3 zone, and so McCain is not really getting an opportunity to show much one-on-one defense, which I would like to see. But with Dillingham, he took him into the post a couple times. He got him into the paint. He used his body to get there. He shot over him. He kept the shot kept coming up short, but I like that he kept taking him down low. And yeah, I mean, I think the fact that McCain plays fast as a shooter and a passer is good. I think he will continue to grow as a distributor. He really didn't play that much in that role at Duke, but I do think that he has it in him. He just has to become like a really quick. I think there were hit-ahead passes that he was making. There were cuts that he was making. He's getting the shot up quickly. Like I almost need him to be like a Lonzo level processor. He's obviously not the athlete and not the thing, but just as far as like the way the game is processed and being like, this shot is going up now, this pass is happening right now. Like when you're undersized like that, you just need to get an edge somewhere else. And McCain really needs to hit like his 90th percentile outcomes in so many of his skill sets. Otherwise, he will just be, a small guard that doesn't play.
Were you surprised that he was the pick?
Because I was a little bit, yeah.
From an outsider's perspective, I feel like Morey normally goes for more well-rounded players. I was a huge Jaden Springer guy, and I thought Jaden Springer was another Morey masterstroke when they took him. Obviously, that didn't work out, but guys sort of like him who maybe they had a fatal flaw but were more well-rounded in a lot of other areas. I felt like that was usually the kind of guy he goes for. Maybe that's totally off base, but McCain is a guy who just has one super sharp elite skill. And, you talk about his lack of size. I'll go back to Reed Shepherd. I thought Shepherd landed in a perfect spot in Houston where he's just surrounded by all these big freaks with Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore, Tariq Eason, guys who could cover up for, whatever size and athleticism deficiencies he has. I wonder, did they know they were getting Paul George at the day of the draft? They probably did.
Yeah.
You got to think, of course, can't say it. That's a tampering penalty. But you had to think they probably knew what they were getting into. And McCain almost sort of seems like a fit pick to me because you could just see how he could play alongside the 3 stars. And then also, the Sixers just got a lot of size now. I'm sure they didn't know they were getting Caleb Martin. Maybe they didn't know they were getting Andre Drummond at the time, but throwing Oubre has such great size. He's got a lot of huge dudes. They have additional size everywhere. Besides for Maxey, I can't recall Maxey's wingspan off the top of my head. I think he might be like a 6'7" wingspan guy. But McCain's really the only small guy they have on the team. So, yeah, I mean, someone like him is going to have to be elite at his skill, which is shooting. But if he is, I think that fits pretty well with what the Sixers are building right now.
Yeah, the Shepherd comp is interesting. It's obviously a different level of wings that they have, and he's fit so perfectly with an Amen Thompson, who I love watching. I think Daryl likes an elite skill, and McCain's shooting has become one. I think his work ethic and the fact that all the personality scouts on him of just how a good teammate he is, graded out incredibly high. Sam Vecini's talked about that. And I think that it's interesting. It really does feel like Daryl not going for a home run type move and just going we're at 16. This guy is going to be a helpful presence in the locker room and on the team. And it did feel safe to me in a kind of a surprising way, but safe, but not guaranteed. It's safe, but unsafe. You know what I mean? Safe in the sense that it's not a crazy high upside swing. It's not I wanted Ron Holland if he fell. Obviously, it didn't fall or come close to falling. but like that would have been an unsafe pick. But it is unsafe in the sense that like you can't just Tristan da Silva is safe in the sense that he's going to be able to play NBA basketball because of the size and the fact that he competes on both ends. McCain competes. I liked a lot of what he saw of the like anticipating passes, picking them off. He got a couple hustle deflections, even with his limited length. I think he sees the floor well, and he's going to get there. But it was an interesting pick. And do you buy after every draft somebody going like that was our guy? It was our guy from the beginning. Like it feels revealing in a sense of like, well, you did take him. They didn't trade out of it, but it did feel like, really, this was the guy that you wanted the entire time. This was the guy that you think is the perfect fit here. And I think as a sixth man, I think he's going to grow into it fine. But it does feel a little anti-Daryl in a sense.
Yeah, but you know the nice thing about Daryl is that like you don't just get your one guy. That's what the Bulls do. They'll put all their eggs in the basket of one first-round pick. You get Bona in the second round, and then they got Judah Mintz. You get Justin Edwards. Was he undrafted, I believe? Like,
yep.
And then, you know, last year they get Ricky Council. Like, he's just casting a wide net. He's placing good bets on guys.
Yeah.
And if someone like McCain, if he busts, but Judah Mintz ends up good, or Ricky Council ends up being like in, you know, a legitimate rotation piece this year, then it all kind of comes out in the wash. And I think like just that approach of like, let's just take smart bets every single year. Let's be really aggressive on the undrafted free agent market, like know who we're doing. I'm losing my mind. The Bulls are entering a rebuild and like they didn't sign anyone. No undrafted free agents. Like, please, can you get into Folly Dante? Please, can you? And these guys just go off the board in 2 seconds after the draft. And Arturas is just asleep while this is all going on. So I just think Daryl, like, you don't have to just put all your stock in your first round pick with him typically. And, you know, just casting a wide net, placing good bets, churn over the back of that roster consistently. And, you know, one of these guys will probably hit eventually.
Let's talk about Justin Edwards, freshman out of Kentucky, underwhelmed from Philadelphia, got to sign a 2-way contract with us here. Really needs to become an automatic, like 40+% shooter. The body he has at 6'6", you would expect to be an advantage because he's big and he's strong, but there's just not the athleticism there that I need to feel excited about. He started playing more Kentucky once the shot started falling, but you know, he has a nice mid-range pull-up going at the rim the way like Oubre does, but the pop athletically is just not there. You see him go towards the rim with anybody around, any shot blocker or non-shot blocker. He just can't finish through them or over them or anything. He just can't elevate through contact. And it's disappointing in a way because you would expect the kind of guy with that body to be able to, but there's not that bounce. I've been impressed with some of his off-ball awareness defensively. I think he keeps his eyes up looking for steals, reading the defense. He's made a couple nice passes, more of a team guy than I'd maybe expect. But there was a quote saying of him talking to Keith Pompey, who's Sixers beat writer, where he said he thinks he was the best player in the draft. And I'm just like, how can you think that, really, though? Like, I understand that like you have to have an amount of confidence, but like, do you really? Like, what is it? What about it? He just, it's perfectly worth the flyer on a 2-way. Maybe the shot is just so real and he can just become a 3-and-D type. But like, I really would prefer more athleticism in my wings. And I'm so surprised when it's not there. What did you like or dislike about Justin Edwards in Kentucky?
I deeply hated watching Justin Edwards at Kentucky. He came into this cycle. Some people had him number 1 on the preseason boards. He was like a pretty trendy pick to be the number 1 pick in the draft in 2024 coming into the season. And many people thought his biggest competition would be his college teammate, DJ Wagner. Well, both of those guys were just fucking terrible. And you could tell like almost immediately. Yeah. I was at the Champions Classic this year in Chicago. They played Kansas, I want to say. And that was like, you know, the second game of the season or something. And Rob Dillingham comes in and just rips 4 straight threes right in a row. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I was highly skeptical of Dillingham coming in, and I thought that Wagner and Edwards were pretty good bets. I think in my preseason mock, I had Edwards like 9 or something, so I was like a little lower on him coming in because I didn't see him as a big time athlete or a polished shooter. But the general like sales pitch on him as a recruit was enticing enough to where you thought, well, he's got good positional size. He's probably going to put up numbers. Kentucky freshmen are always a good bet to be good in the NBA. So
always.
Whatever. So I like dropped him a few spots from where most people had him, but I still generally kind of liked him. It was pretty evident right away that he was just bad. And Wagner was bad too. And Calipari kept playing them the entire
starting him.
Yep. And it was insane that he was running their entire offense through these two guys who were supposed to be the two, top 10 recruits coming into the year. Instead, he had 2 other freshmen who were top 10 recruits in Dillingham and Shepard. So I think that to get him as an undrafted guy on a 2-way, that's awesome. I think that's a great piece of business.
Sure.
Will he pan out? I would say, he's just not one of my guys at all. I resented every minute I had to watch him and DJ Wagner dribble the ball off their feet and, have more turnovers and assists basically. But I still think draft ends, you immediately get the notifications. It's like, oh, Sixers sign Mintz and Justin Edwards. And I'm like, well, they're just on it. They know what they're doing. It's an undrafted guy. So he's a good enough flyer to take. I would be interested, could he play any small ball minutes where maybe he could have a speed advantage against bigger guys? And he is pretty strong for his size. He has a pretty sturdy frame. So, not one of my favorites at all, but I still thought that was a smart guy to go after.
No, of course.
Undrafted dude.
Talk to me. You keep mentioning Judah Mintz out of Syracuse, who has had a couple nice games in Summer League. What did you like about him?
Really good at getting his shot off from anywhere but 3-point range. Just very bouncy, crafty scorer who can get to the rim or pull up from mid range, and was really just a one-man offensive wrecking crew at Syracuse. I just thought he was a very tantalizing scorer. And he was one of those guys who, if he could shoot threes, he'd be an obvious first rounder. So if you could teach him that eventually, pretty good, he could be pretty good. But, not really, he's not a huge guard, but he's not small either. He has a pretty good speed and strength combination, I would say, probably about 6'4", and just knows how to, he's got a back, he knows how to get into his offensive look. So another guy just is a 2-way. Sure, I'll take that guy. And, if the 3-point shot ever comes around, he could be pretty good. I don't really know how he would project defensively, but he's pretty athletic, certainly for his size. And it's fun to watch a guy who just has a deep bag of scoring tricks, who needs to overcome the big limitation in his game, which is that no one's going to respect his 3-point shot. Yeah. So the fact that he was still putting up all these points when everyone knew that he was at best a 2-level scorer was pretty impressive, I thought.
Yeah, it's always tricky because it's what's that guy going to do off the ball? I think about he's got good he can get to the line. I really like the way he uses long strides to sneak through tight windows to get to his spots, and the deceleration that you were talking about. I think about, it's not exactly a similar player, but the kind of similar thing of okay, this guy is good on ball, but is he good enough on ball to be that the sort of sun that the solar system runs around when they're not doing anything off ball? How good do you have to be that?
Really,
I think about really fucking good. I mean, I think about Mason Jones from Arkansas a few years ago as a guy that was kind of funky, kind of weird, got to the line a ton, played for the Sixers a little bit, and then was in Delaware. And he's still bumping around, but you just have to be so good to be that if you're not going to be a willing catch and shoot jump shooter. I mean, I think about the guy.
My favorite team traded for Josh Giddey this offseason, so I'm going through it myself in this same regard. I've gone on this exact rant so many times this offseason.
For sure. The other 2-way guy the Sixers got is David Jones out of Memphis, who's old. I liked him at Memphis, and I have not liked what I've seen at Summer League. You just never know what a guy's going to look like until you see him on an NBA court. And he has the effort, he has the NBA body, but he's just not a gifted enough scorer or finisher or catch and shoot guy. Interesting. I mean, we'll see if he stays on the 2-way spot the whole season. But I would say I was my hopes were higher for liking one of David Jones or Justin Edwards, and I'm not quite there yet. The one guy that is interesting, and I want to talk about Ricky Council in a second, but while we're on the subject of two-way spots, Keve Aluma has had a really nice little summer league. Played at Virginia Tech a couple years after transferring there from Wofford. And then spent 2 years playing in Asia, 1 year in Japan, and 1 year in Korea. And as a stretch five, he is a really interesting guy. He plays hard. He has good touch around the rim. He has a good little pump and go. Has a nice little handle. But they started playing him at the 4 next to Tony Bradley, former Sixer, former Bull, Tony Bradley. And it's just like he's not, that advantage just goes away once you just try to play him at the 4. He doesn't have the quick. He's not adept at enough things. You really need to be like he has a way to succeed as a 5, as a stretch 5 that the Sixers haven't really had. And the jumper comes and goes. He hasn't had like a ton of success as a jump shooter at various levels, although he's shooting well at Summer League. You just really got to commit to him playing the 5. I don't see him as a 4. What do you like out of Keve Aluma? Do you remember him at Virginia Tech? What did you think?
I do remember him at Virginia Tech a bit, but I got to be honest with you, I got no Keve Aluma take. So.
I mean, he popped.
What you just gave the listeners there was pretty solid.
He pops right now. I think there's a lot of talk around because of how rarely you see a stretch 5 with the Sixers. They just haven't had one outside of obviously Embiid, who is his own thing. But there's talk of him maybe getting the second two-way spot, maybe earning it. But I would say I doubt that they give it to him. I think track record wise, they chalk this up to he's had a nice week, but is it really a guy that we're gonna commit to in a real way? Maybe it's more of an Exhibit 10 type thing. But I want to let Keve Aluma know that I've enjoyed what I've seen out of him at the 5 spot. Let's talk about MortgageCS. The Rich Ricky Sanchez is brought to you by MortgageCS, a local independent mortgage broker whose only mission really is to make sure you feel comfortable, educated, and confident when you need to get a mortgage. The fact that they're independent matters. And when you deal with like different mortgage brokers, you get all sorts of biases that they're in various pockets. The fact that MortgageCS is independent, they are getting you the best loan for you, not just the best loan that's best for MortgageCS. And they're local. They're not too big. They're not overextended. They're going to give you the service and attention that you need and that you deserve. Housing market, crazy right now. Interest rates, fucking wild. Adults, they say shit like this. I nod and agree. MortgageCS is not only going to work with you to get a good rate and a loan that you're comfortable with, but also help you win the bid and get your house. They'll contact the listing agent, reassure them loan will clear. Their name is trusted. It matters. Every bit of paperwork. There's so much paperwork. It's done right. It's on time. And they'll make sure they're available wherever you need. They cut through the nonsense. They're really your partner through all of this stuff. You can text Ben, the CEO, at any time, 267-391-7425. Text him. See what he thinks about Keve Aluma. He will have thoughts. Or go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky to schedule a consultation. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. MortgageCS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS number 1464766. MortgageCS.com/Ricky for more information. Okay, Ricky Council. Ricky O'Donnell. Writes to Ricky Sanchez. Ricky Council. That feels good. Even just saying it, putting it all together. What do you like out of Ricky Council? He's had an interesting summer league. I was dying for him to be too good for summer league. And really what we're seeing is a little bit more of the same. He pops in the way he pops, and he is scattered and untrustworthy and b-ball polish in the ways that a coach might not trust. What have you seen from Ricky? What do you think about him?
Yeah, I always really liked him. Going back to Arkansas, when he transferred into Arkansas from Wichita State, I thought that he was someone who had NBA potential. I saw him up close at 2 NCAA tournament games in that Des Moines regional I was at a couple of years ago. They beat Kansas in that 8-1 upset. And, you just see him. He just looks like an NBA wing when he walks into the gym. He has the height, the strength, the weight, the frame. pretty good athlete, I think, in the open floor, and he can do some stuff with that, but just never had great touch. And it's weird because he's a good free throw shooter. He's always like an 80% free throw shooter.
Weird release.
Has a weird release, kind of has a slow shot, but he looked pretty good, I thought, for the Sixers last year in like those non-Embiid games when like the team was just failing and losing and everything was a disaster. But like, hey, Ricky Council, he hit some threes in that little stretch and maybe looks like he could be a guy. So yeah, I thought that he would kill it in Summer League this year. I thought that he would look like a man amongst boys because he's so much older than a lot of these guys too, but sort of just struggled to score from 2-point range for the majority of this Summer League exercise. And then he's going to be a high volume 3-point shooter who's just not a good 3-point shooter. So seems problematic. But I do, again, like I like him as just like taking a flyer on an undrafted guy who you just see what you got in him, see if you could develop him in the G League a little bit. And is he going to have a regular roster spot?
Yeah, he's on a regular roster spot. Yeah, he was during entering the offseason, it was Joel, Maxey, and Ricky Council were the only official guys signed to the team, which would have been a fun team. I think they would have won some games, just the three of them, if nobody else was there. Yeah, I mean, it's just you can tell that he's coming into Summer League going, I need to dominate. This is my time. This is basically the G League. I can do this. His decision-making is just still so suspect. There's sometimes when he makes a right pass, he makes the right read. And then there's times when he's like, he's not consistent with it. He's like, I'm going to go do this thing that I shouldn't do. And I maybe know I shouldn't do it, but I'm athletic enough to make up for it at certain levels. And when the shot's not falling, it's just like, man, that looks bad. He's like double clutching on some, like he does that like fake double clutch as he's falling down shot. And sometimes he has the touch to go in or he banks it in a kind of a funky way. I would like him to go up strong more, get the better shot to get the foul that way. He only takes like step back threes, which is like Daniel House-ish of him to do. I don't think that Nick Nurse is going to give him the rope to work into those step backs. Like I would just love for him to really commit over and over again. It's so strange. Like everybody knows and theoretically the coaches are telling him, here's what you need to do to get regular rotation time. And it's take a fuckload of catch and shoot threes, defend your ass off, straight line drives to the rim, and just like move the ball. Anything more than that, you're going to be trying to do too much. Get extra possessions, offensive rebounds, take a charge, protect the rim, whatever you can do, that's great. But like a little too much crossover, pull up, whatever. It's just the coaching staff loses faith in that guy making those decisions so quick. And you just want him to be, can't you just be do all the stuff that like, Dorian Finney-Smith does, like go do that stuff and don't do any other stuff. Don't do any other stuff. You don't need to. I do love a role player or a fringe role player in Ricky's case, having like a signature dunk. Every single dunk is a reverse dunk. He is dying to go reverse every single time. It's God bless him. And he gets a putback dunk every now and then, which I love. I wanted to see him either be polished enough to dominate in the ways that he's trying to dominate, or self-aware enough that he's not that polished and just play his game that the Sixers would expect him to play when he's playing alongside Maxey and Embiid and Paul George. And so hopefully the guys can scale themselves down and, fit themselves into a little bit more of a box. But you see it with coaches, man. Like they really don't like to trust guys that they can't trust. Like they really don't. And so I question whether Ricky's going to get as much time as I was hoping for him to get. Also want to say Jeff Doughton has been just really great. Jeff Doughton is a professional guard, can snake a pick and roll, can make the right reads, sets up rollers, sprays it out to shooter, finds his own shot, money from the mid range, has a decent three, but you're just like, man, he's got to get quicker with that shot. If you're not that bursty or that athletic, you really got to just be willing to pull very quickly, and his shot takes so long to get off. But
he would have been a great process Sixer.
Oh my God, yeah. Would have taken the starting job from MCW. Would have been his right off the bat. But hopefully, I mean, I wouldn't mind it if they gave him a roster spot just as like a competent guy that Nick Nurse trusts from now his time in Toronto and his time in Philly. But it hasn't been. I wanted to see. He's just like a good basketball player, but he's just not that big and he's not that quick as a trigger. And you're like, is he defending? It's tough. These guys are good and they're just sometimes not good enough. And I also just want to shout out Jordan Tucker, who's on the Sixers Summer League team last year. I just like him. I like Jordan Tucker. I like the body. I like the strength. I like the shot, the way it looks. I just like Jordan Tucker. I think there's some Haywood Highsmith action to Jordan Tucker, a former two-way Sixer that has then caught on with Miami Heat, obviously. So I like Jordan Tucker. I want to talk about the Jalen Brunson contract because he takes less money to sign a long-term guaranteed deal in New York. And I think a lot of people are criticizing him, and it seems like the union is a little bit scared, or people are expecting the union to be worried about the fact that a player is taking less money on account of the second apron and all the stuff, and teams are leaning on them. What was your first reaction from Jalen Brunson signing that deal with the Knicks, and your reaction to, I guess, the maybe groupthink that everybody was upset about it?
Yeah, I was shocked. I mean, you just don't see that a lot for someone who's in the prime of their career like Brunson, who, yeah, he got a big deal on the Knicks the first time, but he didn't get anywhere close to a max contract, I don't think. And so, normally those guys are in a position where they want to make their money. Obviously, when your dad played in the NBA for a long time, you have a little more leeway. But I think I saw Rick Brunson's career earnings were like $5.5 million. So it's not like he was Del Curry or something. You know what I mean? Like he was, a very much fringe NBA player for a long time. But I think that, does he make this concession without the McHale deal? And being able to get Bridges there and just having all of his Villanova bros there, Archie Diacono is going to be back on that roster eventually, probably. Sign Chris Jenkins. Why not? What's Amari Spellman do? What about Phil Booth? I'm sure they got his number.
All day.
Bring back
Is Shane Clark around? Where's Dante Cunningham? Keep digging back into it. The thing that I hear what you're saying, and I hear what everybody's saying about, like, if he waited another offseason, he made it one more year, then he could have gotten himself really, like, he left like $35 million on the table or whatever it is.
$113 million.
Well, but
before the option.
Right.
Yeah.
I will just say he is a small guard with limited athleticism playing for Tom Thibodeau. And he's going to turn 28 in a month. The idea that getting a guaranteed $100+ million more just to be like, in case I Isaiah Thomas my hip, and I become, my value tanks, I just don't think it's that crazy of a thing to do. Obviously he's very good, but for his size, it's also unprecedented for a guy that plays that way in a kind of similar game to Isaiah Thomas. Obviously he's a little bit bigger than Isaiah was, than the younger Isaiah is. But I just don't think it's that unrealistic. And also, like, these guys get paid in so many different ways. Like, there is rationale to the idea that obviously winning is winning, and he should want to win, and maybe if he's part of the calculus is him taking a pay cut because he wants to win and he wants to help the Knicks sign the guys that they want to sign, most of which are his friends. If the Knicks succeed in the playoffs and win a championship, the marketing opportunities that Jalen Brunson will get by being the best player on a championship level New York Knicks team is more than the $37 million or whatever that he left on the table. So, like, I just think that there's ways around it that's just not. I would say that I would have done the same thing, is basically what I'm saying.
I kind of think I would have done the same thing too, because I'm sort of risk averse with myself and my money. Yes. He got $156 million.
Yeah.
That's so much money.
That's plenty.
And I know you could have made 270, but 156 is like, his kid's never going to have to work. His kid's never going to have to work. They can chill forever.
and he gets to hang with his friends. He's got the podcast with Josh Hart. Like, I just think there's ways to make up for what he has left on the table, especially if the Knicks are a successful playoff team for the next 4 or 5 years that he's signed there.
Yeah, and I like your point about, his body could break down right away. You never know what's going to happen. I think that about this idea that like, oh, this was like playing chess, not checkers, in terms of like he's going to opt out after that 3rd year, then he's going to get the 10-year max and he's going to be making $400 million. To me, that I'm highly skeptical of for all the reasons you laid out, because he is a smaller guard playing a ton of minutes for Thibodeau. That like, I don't think that there is any promise to make him whole for this sacrifice he's taking, because if Leon Rose was doing that, that would be like malpractice, basically. Like,
yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, he took the money. He's got a shit ton of money forever. Yeah. He left a little money on the table, but he has to play with all his friends. So I guess the only thing that sort of bothers me is like, does this happen without the new CBA?
Right.
And I kind of think the new CBA sucks.
I think everybody is acknowledging that it sucks.
So, yeah, I mean, you just wonder, like, you don't want other guys to be pressured into taking this type of haircut when they don't get to play basketball with their college roommates.
Yeah.
In other places. So, I don't know. We'll see. Like, I think that, like, for sure, like, the best thing you can have in basketball is one of the best players in the league on a max contract, because they give you so much more value than that.
Yep.
But when you have a guy who's not one of the best players in the league on a max contract, that can like be a significant team building, handicap. And I think you're sort of seeing it in these already like too early negotiations with Brandon Ingram. And Brandon Ingram's agent is calling everyone around the league and being like, hey, will anyone give us a max contract? And so I do wonder if, like, obviously, like Brunson, I think absolutely was in a tier where he would have gotten max money. Would he have been able to live up to it for 4 or 5 years? I'm not going to sit here and say definitely yes. I think he earned it for sure. But, it's tough to project out that far. But I do wonder if, like, more guys in sort of Brunson's tier, what tier is that? Is Jalen Brunson the 10th best player in the league? Is he the 20th best player in the league? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just wonder, like, would this have happened without the second apron, and will other guys sort of get squeezed?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that with the Knicks part of it, the fact that it's his dad is there, his agent's dad is Leon Rose, like it's just the family sort of like aura of nepotism and backroom dealings and weirdness sort of gives it a like, what the fuck happened here? And who knows? I obviously don't know. But as far as what Jalen did, obviously it's good for the Knicks. So good for them. If I was a Knicks fan, I would totally love it. This
You're a fan, you gotta love it.
But I think for Brunson, I think it does make sense on a certain level of as in a risk averse with like team upside kind of way. Let's talk about, before we get to your Bulls, and I want to hear what you thought about Paul George to the Sixers. Let's talk about Bodybio, because Bodybio is a company that I love. It is a family-owned and operated company, South Jersey. The stuff that matters health-wise to you are your brain and your gut, and also not getting cramps. Those are the 3 things that matter to me. Small company, they do a much better job. Quality control. They test every batch product. If it doesn't meet their standards, it doesn't go out. You can get 20% off any Bodybio product with code Mike's Tummy, bodybio.com. The gut supplement that I take, I have it here in my work bag. It's sodium butyrate. It controls bloat. It helps me be more regular. It's good. I need it, and it helps. And I took it when I was sick. I just got over COVID. I had COVID last week, which sucked. But the gut supplement helped stay regular, and the Elite of getting electrolytes, improving stamina, reducing fatigue, mimics electrolyte levels in the body for optimal hydration. 3 ingredients you need for proper hydration: sodium, potassium, magnesium. No sugars, no flavoring, no bullshit. It was helpful. It was good. I take it when I play basketball. Little capsule full in the water. I love it. I love Bodybio. It's great. Use promo code Mike's Tummy for 20% off any order at bodybio.com. Okay, Ricky, the Chicago Bulls. The Chicago Bulls. What are they thinking? What are they doing? What's going on? I know you're feeling maybe a little bit better because Buzelis looks good, but what is it? What's happening?
You know, I spent all those years banging on the drum to fire Garplax. Please, somebody free me from this hell of 20 years of John Paxson as my favorite team's GM. Doesn't matter what the fuck he did. It seemed like he had lifetime employment. Well, the best thing I can say about Arturas Karnisovas is that he was not a good enough basketball player to hit a game-winning shot in the 1993 NBA Finals himself. So I would hope that there is less loyalty to Arturas and they can just fucking fire him because he's not good at this at all. And I would love, I mean, we'll never know, but I would love to get an unvarnished look at what these other teams think of him. The Sixers apparently thought they had a trade for Andre Drummond at the trade deadline. 3 second-round picks for Andre Drummond. The Bulls are like, nah, we're just going to lose in the play-in tournament, and then you can have them. We don't really need these picks. Who cares? And, you know, honestly, man, like coming into this offseason, I wanted them to do 2 things. Trade Caruso and get rid of DeMar and try to protect their top 10 protected 2025 draft pick owed to the San Antonio Spurs from the original DeRozan deal. I thought that, obviously, the Bulls were beyond saving the team that they ran out the last few years. It was totally insane that Arturas chose to do nothing at every single transaction cycle and was like, well, continuity will get us over the hump. It's like, no, you're stupid. It's not going to. Your team sucks. Lonzo's never coming back. It's not going to work. Get rid of these guys. So I'm glad they moved off DeRozan and Caruso for sure. They could not possibly have made a worse Caruso trade, in my opinion. I think Giddey fucking sucks. And he was at the absolute low point of his value. And then beyond that,
yeah,
it's like, dude, Caruso had conceivably such a wide market. Even with 1 year under contract left, every good team in the league can use Alex Caruso.
Everyone.
All defense the last 2 years, hit over 40% of his threes last year, and just has an incredible knack for making winning plays. He might be the smartest basketball player I've ever seen. Like, he's on the short list. His communication, when you watch him game in and game out, is like really phenomenal. And it's a shame that like Caruso could never be on a good Bulls team because he would have been an all-time cult hero in Chicago basketball lore. But instead, the Bulls just hung on to him way too long. I still think they could have got a better trade than Giddey. Absolutely. I still think he would have had a lot of value to a lot of different teams where you could have said, give me your best and final offer. Let's see, you know, what you can get from all these teams, especially because the Thunder is he's such a perfect fit on the Thunder. And to get no draft capital off the team with the most draft capital is like honestly fucking crazy.
Zero. Not even 1 second-round pick just to say you got one.
And then they traded 5 second-round picks at the draft to move up to get Dylan Jones with like the 27th pick. I don't think Arturas asked for one, is my thing. Or he was like, well, how about 2 unprotected first? And they were like, no.
My hands are already full.
I'll just take Josh Giddey then.
Really
like
rough.
Giddey's value was not high. And I think Arturas,
he just got played out of off the floor in the playoffs.
I mean, the book is out on Josh Giddey. You guard him with your centers. I'm gonna stop myself from making an inappropriate joke here about Josh Giddey's off the court trials, but let's just say that Josh Giddey, the book is out. You know, he can't beat you, and if he's the guy on the ball, I can't tell you how many people I've heard say, well, the Thunder just weren't a good fit for Josh Giddey. Okay, the Thunder were the best 3-point shooting team in the league by percentage last year. What do you mean they weren't a good fit for him? Do you mean they had a player better than him who was awesome and then he was useless?
That's it.
Is essentially what happened. So I'm pretty mad about the Giddey thing, as you can tell. I've gone on a lot of podcast rants about this. I've gotten very worked up. I hate the fact that he'll just never get to the foul line. He's totally allergic to taking a pull-up 3. Nobody fucking guards him. And when they even give him like a soft contest, it's just an automatic miss. Like you have to truly ignore him for him to hit a shot. Like no one within 8 feet of him. So I'm pretty bummed out about that. And like, yeah, it sounds good. Oh, he's 21 years old. He's been productive. He's been, to me, like these young guys who just aren't very good, but were high picks are just like such a landmine. And I'm going to throw RJ Barrett in there. I'm going to throw DeAndre Ayton in there. How about Kuminga? Is Kuminga in there? I mean, Kuminga was kind of interesting last year. I don't know. I'd rather have Kuminga than Giddey, certainly.
Yeah.
But, it sounds cool to be like, well, Josh Giddey, I'm sure this year he's going to average 17, 8, and 8, probably, because the Bulls are going to be garbage. He's going to have the ball the entire season because nobody else is good enough to take it away from him. And they're probably going to give him a lot of money, and it's going to be terrible, and the Bulls won't ever be good during my lifetime. So this is just the cross I bear. So I thought that was garbage. In terms of the DeMar move, fine. I don't care. 2 second-round picks. Like, I know that people are getting upset that they didn't get the best asset in that trade, which was the pick swap, which went to the Spurs.
Yep.
I mean, for sure. But there's no way they were going to pay the luxury tax during a rebuilding year. They've paid the luxury tax once in 20 years. Jerry Reinsdorf, the first thing he pencils into his budget is the $12.8 million handout he's getting from the other big market owners who actually try to win, while he sits there and tries to remember the entire starting lineup of the 1927 Yankees instead of giving a shit about the 2 professional sports teams he owns. So I can't really get mad at that. I'm not surprised Arturas didn't give a shit about that pick swap because he's going to get fucking fired. He's bad. He's not good. He's not going to be here in 2031. And it's just a shame. Well, like, I hope he gets fired, I should say. I mean, Reinsdorf executives have incredible job security. I'm a White Sox fan too. So I've seen bad White Sox executives been kept around forever. Paxson was there for 20 years. Arturas is worse than Paxson. There's almost no doubt. He's much worse than Paxson. And Gar Forman was very bad, but he drafted Jimmy Butler, which is one of the best draft picks of the decade in the NBA, of the 21st century in the NBA. So at least he did one good thing.
You still have former Sixer Nikola Vucevic still on the team. Zach LaVine still on the team. Is the starting lineup going to be Giddey, Kobe White, who had a great year and really took a step forward? Giddey, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, and Nikola Vucevic. Is that your starting 5?
Yeah. And Vooch is the guy who just fucking kills me. Vooch, I mean, the trade to get Vooch was so bad and so stupid. And I kind of talked myself into it as a fan, but when I was doing my draft grades, I mean, I gave the Magic an A+. That was just obviously a masterstroke by the Magic. It's like, oh, we get 2 Bulls lottery picks? Of course we're going to take that deal. It was just incredible how much more value they got for Vooch than Aaron Gordon. They traded them both at the deadline the same year. So that was obviously a great trade for the Magic. Didn't work out for the Bulls. But legitimately re-signing Vooch to 3 for $60 was almost as dumb as trading for him in the first place. You look at Jonas Valanciunas, pretty comparable player to Vooch. I would say he's better than Vooch, but he signed 3 for $30. He got half as much guaranteed money as Vooch, and now they're stuck with Vooch. They can't give him away because he sucks, and you overpaid him so much, and no one will take him. And now he's this big lumbering anchor on your young rebuild who's not going to be able to run with Josh Giddey, who's always kind of had a little bit of an attitude, who's always like, I've made so many sacrifices to play with DeMar DeRozan. Now he's going to be taking like 25 shots a game. I really want them to get rid of Vooch. I think Vooch sucks. LaVine, I can see a world where LaVine can up his trade value. I think Zach LaVine's really good. He's frustrating. He's not worth the contract they paid him, but he can be a damn good player, and I think he can have appeal to other teams if he can put up good numbers on the Bulls, which he typically has. So I try not to be one of these guys who's like blaming the player for earning a lot of money, unless it's Vooch. Vooch, you suck. But LaVine, like, I don't know. I mean, he's very frustrating, but you just see the same cycle happen where, the whole fan base turns on him once he starts making money. And, last year he was hurt. Typically he's played hurt in the past. He didn't last year. So, yeah, I mean, the Bulls are in a very weird spot right now. It seems like finally the big 3, the world's worst big 3 ever created, finally that's over. But it's like, I don't know, 2 of these guys are still here. And the Bulls front office gave an interview at Summer League where they were basically like, we love DeMar DeRozan. We wish he was still on the team. But they couldn't keep him on the team because they can't give away Zach and Vooch. So it just shows how bad and stupid they are. And it's very painful. Could it possibly? Can I like talk myself into this a little bit? Like, I'm
Please.
very excited to watch a rebuilding Bulls team. Like, why not?
Do you think they're going to be rebuildy enough, though?
Well, that's the thing, is they never are. Like, it's no coincidence whenever they try to rebuild, they get the 7th pick. And whenever they try to compete, they falter because they don't pay the luxury tax. They're like too cheap to be bad and too cheap to be good. And so they're just stuck fighting the Raptors in the play-in tournament. Josh Giddey versus RJ Barrett for the next 15 years.
That's it.
And it's miserable. This is how shitty things have gotten, Mike. I'm like, I want to see Dalen Terry this year. Let me see some Julian Phillips. I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, I don't need Torrey Craig in my life. I love Javonte Green, one of my favorites.
Same.
I don't need him. Javon Carter, get him out of here. Like, just play these like young guys and let's see them like have fun, and let's lose a lot of games and probably pray to have a 1.8% chance of Cooper Flag or whatever it'll end up being, because it'll be the 8th worst team.
Yeah.
And it's pretty bleak. So
it's bleak in a way that's familiar to me. I said this before the podcast started, but it really is like 2011, 2012 Sixers vibes of just like, I don't see any way out of this forever. I think forever. I think this is going to be it forever. The fact that the fact that Paxson was GM for 20 years is such a long time. That is such a long time. And if you have to deal with Karnisovas for that long, that is just really, really, really tough. And I hope for your sake that it is not the case. I would like to take Ayo Dosunmu from you. I think he would be a nice fit here in a Derek Whitey type of way.
Yeah, I mean, I like Ayo. Obviously, you do wonder, like, why not trade Kobe? Trade Ayo. Like, if you're really going to bottom out, like, this is the decision you could have made with Levine years ago. Instead of re-signing Levine, trading for Vooch, going all in around Levine, you could have just traded him and gotten off it. Like, whatever Kobe's next contract is going to be, it's probably going to be pretty CJ McCollum-y.
Yep.
Which I like Kobe. Kobe's a good vibes guy. He sparks joy, which is something you can't say about any player on the Bulls ever, basically. So I like having Kobe around. But, if they were really like a serious franchise and were ready to try to like aspire to something greater than the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, you would have to think about trading Ayo, trading Kobe, because Lord knows you can't give away Vooch. And everyone is just telling Karnisovas, Zach LaVine sucks. We will not take him. You are stuck with him. And my last thought on this is, it is kind of funny that Jerry Reinsdorf, who famously will never give out a $100 million contract owning the White Sox, the one guy he's ever paid is Zach LaVine, who is just like not even close to being worth it. And that's just funny. Yeah. And I think, good job, Zach LaVine. You took Jerry Reinsdorf for a ride, which Mark Burley couldn't do it. You did it, Zach LaVine. And that's cool as shit.
That is good. I want to hear your thoughts on where the Sixers are at right now. The Sixers obviously had a great summer. Paul George, Caleb Martin, re-signing Oubre, bringing Kyle Lowry back, a couple decent draft picks, Eric Gordon, Andre Drummond, a couple more roster spots to fill. Free agency is sort of stalled out as everybody realizes that there's not more money to go around. KJ Martin on the balloon payment, the famed balloon payment.
What a summer.
What do you think? What do you think about our Sixers here?
Yeah, they're awesome. Like, here we are you're getting frustrated about disappointing summer league performances because you're a true sicko, and that's just what you're going to care about every year until you're dead. But
thank you.
This actual Sixers are loaded and awesome and will be really good. I expect them to be a regular season wins juggernaut, assuming Embiid health. Also, like, can Embiid get over some of these like statistical things that it seems like he covets and loves so much? I need to score 30 points a game every single game. I need to have this. Who gives a shit?
We're done. We're done. There was a 30-10 streak that people tried to get excited about last year, and I thought it was the dumbest fucking thing in the world. I was like, please get out. He got hurt in the game where he tried to get it again. It was ridiculous.
I remember that. Wasn't that against the Pacers? He like came back in to get the 30-point streak. It's like, that
was upsetting to me.
What are you doing? No one cares. So hopefully Embiid can take his foot off the gas a little bit. You have an elite backup center in Andre Drummond, who is goofy, sparks joy though, will bring a smile to your face, and will be really good at doing backup big man stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, Embiid, like, he needs to learn from that Nuggets championship run a couple of years ago where Jokic absolutely took his foot off the gas in the second half of the season, didn't really care, and then proved how great he is in the playoffs, and that's what Embiid has to do. It does give me a little bit of pause that like Embiid and Paul George are just like notoriously bad playoff guys, and when they haven't been to the Eastern Conference Finals, and since Iverson's heyday, that's a little bit worrisome. But man, they just killed it. I really think they killed it this offseason. What would they have done if they didn't get Paul George? There was like not really another move they could have made where you would have like felt good about the offseason.
No.
Anunoby was off the board. Siakam was off the board.
They probably would have gone to Ingram. Would have been, I
Ingram,
guess, the pivot that you
man,
make, or you go like, okay, well, KCP and Caleb Martin, who they got for less money anyway, like those kinds of guys that you just added together, and you hope that that's really counting on Embiid to be healthy for as long as he is. And now the fact that it's Paul George, man, like he can scale up, scale down, play both ways, play on ball, play off ball. Embiid's going to miss 25 plus games a season, and to have Paul George here to be like, oh, okay, now I'll just go be that guy for a little bit. I don't think he can be that guy for 82 plus a playoff run, but sharing it with Maxey and Embiid, that hopefully is enough to.
Paul George overmatched as a first option. I think everyone would agree. As a third option, it was like, holy shit, Paul George is their third best player.
Yeah.
That's
and especially with the Clippers, man, like he was the only guy that was stretching the floor. He's playing with Westbrook, Harden, who doesn't like taking catch and shoot threes, Kawhi, who also likes to dance with the ball a little bit and get into his post-ups of the nail and mid-range and all that stuff. I would imagine that takes a toll, just being like, I have to be the guy to stand out here just so nobody else is willing to take a regular catch and shoot three. Now that with Maxey, who obviously has incredible range, and Embiid, who's willing to shoot from wherever, I think it's going to be, I hope that the contract thing was hanging over PG's head, and the fact that he was playing with some like tricky fits. I'm hoping that like the rest of his game comes along, even as his Clippers fans were like disappointed by the effort level and the defense and the like shot selection and stuff like that last year.
Yeah, but he had a sick year last year. I mean, he played 74 games. He had a killer year last season. So if he can keep that up for 2
efficiency
seasons,
wise,
and like you would just think like the playoff failure stuff, like, is it a little fluky, like small sample size in general? So like you would just hope that, if Embiid can ever stay healthy for a playoff run, you would think Embiid's got to stay healthy once.
It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
Just once.
It's got to happen. We've been doing this so many times.
Them and the Knicks, I mean, those games are going to be just so cool. You're going to hate the Knicks so much if you don't already. I'm sure you do. But that's going to be like, that's what it's all about, man. It's going to be those Sixers-Knicks games and the Celtics too, but it's just going to feel like real important stuff when you're watching it.
I think so too. I think the East is good, man. I think the Magic are going to take a big step forward.
Yeah.
I think the Bucks, obviously, Giannis is good enough to make up for a lot of mistakes on that roster and on Doc Rivers being his coach. The Pacers, I love the Pacers. I don't think last year was a fluke, even if they don't get back to the conference finals this year. I think they're still a very legitimate team that's going to keep growing. Like Miami is always going to be a threat. Like those are legitimate teams. That are going to be interesting. I would love a Celtics Knicks, like Sixers Bucks second round. That would be good for me. It would feel good to beat Doc. Because once again, I've said it a lot, the Sixers not only have not made it back to the conference finals, they have not beaten a good team in the playoffs. A good team. Haven't done it. Would like to do it. I do want to wish BBall Paul a lovely time in Detroit. He cannot escape Tobias Harris. I love BBall. I think Detroit is a tough spot for him because, man, they do not have shooters on that team. There's just Cade and a bunch of guys that they really don't think that shooting is necessary. I like that they got Malik Beasley. I think he's good. Fontecchio. They're just like, damn. They keep doing it. They keep getting non-shooters. Jaden Ivey is not going to get a chance to blossom there. Fucking Ron Holland, Jalen Duren, everything. It is tough for my guy B-Ball, but at least Tobias will be there to steady the ship. Do you like BBall?
He's a DePaul guy. Of course,
Yeah,
I like
that's true.
BBall. He's a DePaul legend. Him and Max Strus. I was the only media member at those games watching Max Strus and BBall.
And I liked both of those guys coming out of college, by the way. Yes, BBall Paul. The fact that his name is Basketball Paul, and it rhymes, and he went to DePaul. That is the part that is often forgotten about this. I want to wish a happy birthday. We do this to Sudsy from your girlfriend Jess. Daniel, nicknamed Sudsy, turning 27, a Ricky listener from Melbourne, Australia. So
it's a great Australian nickname.
A great Australian nickname, Sudsy. I wish the Sixers had a guy named Sudsy. So happy birthday to him from your girlfriend, Jess. Ricky, this was great. I really love listening to you complain about the Bulls. It scratches an itch within me that the Sixers have irritated from year to year, but right now the Sixers are in a pretty decent place, and so I need to farm out my frustration, my anger, and I'm glad I got it from you. So thank you for coming on the podcast, talking about Summer League, talking about this team. This has been the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. Ricky, are you down with TTP? Do you know?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah is close enough. Thanks, Rick.